Hi, Burl. How are you? I'm gonna make you co-host since you'll be presenting. It's not gonna-
And Kim, I can just run the slides,
Okay.
but I don't know if I will get it. uh,
We are already streaming. I don't know how that happened.
Okay, then you can run them and I can see them.
What do you mean?
So you're going to run them. So you're going to change the slides?
Did you send it to me?
Yes.
Right, it's not letting me, you must have
Gotta make you
removed me.
co-host.
Yeah.
I didn't remove you though. I think we're ready.
All right. All right, we're ready? Okay,
Yes.
dokie. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Glad that you all are here with us. Antoine Thompson, Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. We're really thankful that you will be here with us on this uh, Tuesday afternoon as we talk about ending biodiesel in our region. You're going to hear about some great work that is happening in the industry. One of our big priorities uh, focuses on getting more local and state governments to utilize biodiesel. The office has been doing a lot of great work in that space. But before I get into the subject for today, I would like to do some housekeeping items. The first thing is I want to recognize Ron Flowers, who was our previous leader and executive director for Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition, former fleet manager as well, someone that's been an ambassador for the biofuels industry and biodiesel industry for many, many, many years. And I want to thank him for being here. I also want to mention that the organization, Greater Washington Region Clean Cities, we have our annual conference coming up October 23rd. It will take place in Greenbelt, Maryland. And so let's make sure uh, that we that you are registered for that. So we will put that in the chat as well. Make sure that you are registered October 23rd. We're going to have a number of amazing awardees for the conference. And so look forward to that. We're going to have a nice awards luncheon. We're going to have a number of sessions. A couple of the sessions will focus on sustainable aviation fuel and RNG. and other low carbon, low to zero emission things as well. We'll also have a nice reception as well, which we will be celebrating uh, influential leaders and emerging leaders in the industry as well. Some folks who are new to the industry or emerging as prominent leaders in the industry. So we'll be announcing the emerging leaders as well that we will recognize there. We also will be giving away some scholarships in honor of Ron Flowers, the GWRCCC Ron Flowers Scholarship. We will be giving away $10,000 in scholarships. So it's still not too late to donate. We'll put the chat in the chat to donate, but we will be giving away 10 $1,000 scholarships at the closing reception. So hopefully, Ron, your son, Ron Jr., will be able to join us at the event as well. So we're looking forward to that. So register today. You can go right to gwrccc.org to register for the conference on October 23rd. So I just want to, before I go and introduce our speakers today, I want to just kind of level set the conversation around the fact that the last few years last couple of years, by the biofuels industry has been making some progress. But one thing that I'm hopeful for moving forward, that in the medium to heavy duty space, we want to see them grow by leaps and bounds the next 3 to 4 years. And what we're looking to do in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area is make sure that local and state governments, especially the local governments, that more of them are accelerating the use of that. And there's some things we're going to talk about today to make that a reality. And we can't do that without you all. So we're going to get into that, and then I'll come back and talk about next steps. The office currently manages 2 diesel emission reduction act projects with DC government. A year or so ago, a year and a half ago, we worked on a project with Prince George's County as well, and they were able to win a state Maryland Energy Administration grant to do some work on biodiesel with fleets there. We also, just so that you all are aware, this month, our office, in partnership with Jill Hamilton, who's chair of our board, who's president of SESI, which is Sustainable Energy Strategies Inc., I believe, but Burl will tell you the exact case. I messed it up. SESI. But we sent a letter to the EPA, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, making some recommendations to them on how we can make the program more effective, easier, more efficient, to get more people into the program, and also how we can get more private fleets into the program. So we did send that letter 2 weeks ago. It was sent up to the powers that be that look at this. We will also be working after this call to get some members of Congress to do letters in support of our changes. So that will be the next thing that we'll have Amaya, who's our policy intern in the office. We'll start working to get some of the federal members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to embrace our recommendations as well. At the local level and state level, you'll hear about that shortly. But I wanted you all to know that we're not stopping with just the local and state. We are also trying to get some changes at the federal level, and we've put that keyboard or ink to paper. So I want to share that with you. Okay. All right. Without further ado, I'd like to. We're going to start with Burl Hagewood. He'll talk about what they're doing in Maryland, and then we'll go to Amaya Tatum. I don't think Steve could make it, so we'll go to Amaya Tatum. We'll talk about our campaign that we will be launching shortly, that we've already launched, but we'll be more robust about it in terms of letting people know. That campaign will look to get local and state, local governments and also state governments to do more in this space. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Burl Hagewood, who is Director of Business Innovation and Strategic Partnerships at Sustainable Energy Strategies, SESI Inc. Incorporated. Burl, the floor is yours. I think Kim's going to work your slides. Thank you for being here.
<clears throat> Thank you, Antoine. And I think I can run the slides too. We'll see. I sent a revised copy. So, and then I'm waiting for Steve when he pops on and has a chance. He's at a conference. So I got my eye on the text from from him when he's ready. So we wanted to give an overview of all the exciting things that are going on with biodiesel, a national context and perspective from Steve when he's ready, and then what's happening in Maryland, Virginia, what the Clean Cities GWRCCC is doing with airports, and then at the conference. So there's a lot of activities around biodiesel. We've got a lot of information to share. One, I'd like to talk about the Northern Virginia Clean Fuels Advisory Board that started September 23rd, looking at all the clean fuels particularly, which is what Clean Cities does. But we had our first kickoff meeting, was well attended. People are excited about it. There's a new Loudoun County Commissioner that's dealing specifically with sustainable transportation, which is a new position. So we're all excited about that. So that's going to, we had the kickoff meeting and a reception on the 23rd. And then we'll keep going probably at the beginning of next year, hopefully write a report, do some surveys. The other one is the Sustainable Airports Working Group that met during the summer. Probably had about 30 people engaged looking at all the different airports. There's a lot of those in the area. You wouldn't believe, from not only sustainable aviation fuels as a fuel, but also looking at ground transportation. So there's a lot of activity there and a lot of opportunity. And then the Clean Cities Conference, it's coming up. There'll be a panel on sustainable aviation fuels and another panel on the Maryland Biofuels Task Force, which I'm going to give you an update now, sort of not just only what's going on in the region, but Maryland in particular is a different, sort of a different case. And we'll go to that. Come back to Steve. So Maryland has the most ambitious carbon reduction program in the United States, more so than California. A 60% reduction in emissions by 2031. And the most interesting thing to me when they came out with this was the Department of the Environment estimated that by reducing carbon by 646 million metric tons, it would have a total societal benefit of $135 billion, which I think it's interesting when you put the value on the table, because it is the value, it's the sum of the parts that really makes biofuels a very interesting proposition for states and consumers. So, that was the part of that. The missing part was a policy gap. The biofuels was excluded from the plan. It was excluded from policy. It is excluded from all the strategic plans that the different agencies were looking at in order to reduce carbon. So we said, hey, you're missing an opportunity here. Ethanol has 50% less carbon than gasoline, and biodiesel has up to 80% less. So we've been working with the Maryland Department of Environment And we're very excited about what they've done. And the Maryland Commission on Climate Change recently made a recommendation to adopt a clean fuel standard. So a lot of things are happening in there. And a great case study for Virginia and DC as well. And the thing is, biodiesel is powering economic growth, national security, and environmental protection. It's really the sum of its parts that when you're evaluating and assessing this, which is what the task force is doing, that you need to look at. So by reducing exposure to the oil markets and expanding local fuel alternatives, you stabilize farm prices, energy prices, and not only secure the economy, but the personal security of its residents. So we really delved into all those different aspects as to why, to help Maryland with the Maryland Commission on Climate Change on looking at their recommendation, to give them the data and the support they need to do an assessment, because it's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts. And carbon is just one part of that scenario. Because the value-added processing starts the circular economy. It starts with value-adding ag, whether it be corn, soybeans, waste oil, whatever that is. It's that economic security that's generating value that also begets food security, which creates energy security, national security, environmental security from the standpoint of carbon, which is obviously what Maryland's intent was, but it's also personal security because of the air toxics that it reduces. In the case of biodiesel, particulate matter, that's a big deal. So now we're looking at all those things as the sum of its benefits. So we're looking at great carbon reduction potential from biodiesel, 40 to 86%, depending on the feedstock. 177 million metric tons. I'm sorry, 1.12 million metric tons statewide if you were to go to B20. And we picked B20 because, one, it's compatible in all vehicles, and you got to start somewhere. So would they go to B20 right away? Maybe not. Maybe it's B5, maybe it's B6, B10, whatever that is, that we had to say, okay, let's do that. But if you're looking at one long haul truck using B100, there's also a big reduction. So again, we created some scenarios just to put some carbon on the table to have an exchange. And as you can see, from soybean oil to used cooking oil, there's a big difference. But you're also looking at a lot of carbon reduction. So it's not only carbon, it is particulate matter. B20 can reduce PM by up to 17%, with some buses showing up to 70%. Prince George's County, B100, reducing it by 75% per gallon. And there was a study that the Clean Fuels Alliance did, and this one was based on the state of Oregon, that when you look at the transition going to biofuels, it could prevent 30 premature deaths annually in Maryland. Doesn't sound like a lot, unless it's yours. So you look at the economics drive adoption. There was a partnership between Flying J, America's Soybean Farmers, Optimus Technologies, PepsiCo, and Archer Daniels Midland. All together, they created the first B99 or 100% biodiesel station in Illinois. And the reason they did that is biodiesel costs less. It's saving up to 22 cents a gallon nationwide. Maryland truckers could save over $100 million annually. Why is that important? Because that truck is taking your commodities to market. So it has an impact on everything. And when you look at soybeans, when you look at biodiesel as a whole, there's a $23 billion economic activity nationwide. So what goes up must go down. If you don't protect the price of farmland, if you don't give enough farmers enough demand to keep up with the increases in yield, increases in technology, they stand to lose because either you gain or you lose. So when Maryland looks at this, there's about a $200 per ton societal cost, but economically to just the soybean growers in Maryland, we're looking at 26 million to 41 million. And the data shows that that's not an impact on food. The reduction in price of oil, fuel, all has a reduction on the price of food, because if the farmers don't stay in business, if you don't sustain that farmland, it is sold, and then that increases greenhouse gases. So it is simple economics. It's capitalism. Grow or die. So, the food versus fuel, it's not just food. It's not just fuel. It is food, fuel, and feed that's produced by value-added processing to the soybeans. When you look at performance, B5 is approved everywhere. Up to B20 is also approved, but it's cleaner and it enhances lubricity. When you're looking at Maryland, PG County, which Clean Cities and Sustainable Energies worked on, they've got a project where they have a B100 transit, B100 bus. That is up to 90% reduction in CO. And, so it's working, it's being deployed. That's something that Clean Cities does, is it takes it to market. And this is an amazing opportunity to prove this technology for, fleets that are hard to electrify. And while electrification has always been a goal in Maryland, due to the rollback in federal legislation, grants, funding, as Clean Cities has also suffered from, they need to have options, and biodiesel is obviously a great option. And again, Antoine is working with the DC government closely. They've also got a B100 project where they're looking at the trash trucks and other trucks in Maryland. And, they're looking at over 392 vehicles using biodiesel. And that is significant. That is a significant amount of biodiesel. That's a significant amount of PM and particulate matter coming out of the air. There's about 15 biodiesel locations in Maryland. You guys will get a copy of this. It has a link. And there's also an alternative fuel requirement that 50% of the state vehicles use it. That's a 5% blend. We're following up on that to see where they are. And then again, later when Steve, check my text. Steve will give you an idea about the clean heat standard. And
He's here.
Okay. And I'll wrap this up. So again, you look at the path forward, you have to expand the infrastructure. Sustainable Energy Strategies has worked with Sheets, Wawa, DC government, PG County. You got to have the ability to bring this fuel to market. So it's all about infrastructure, but it's chicken and the egg. How are you going to do that if you don't have an incentive? You're going to need to implement some kind of standard as some type of mechanism in the market to make these not only the fleets, but the fuel providers bring this to market, because there is 1.1 million metric tons of carbon on the table that Maryland wants to get rid of, and you're sustaining agriculture and you're improving public health. So again, it's the sum of the benefits. It's not just carbon. It's about energy. It's about energy prices. It's about the economy. It's about the residents of every single person that's impacted in Maryland. Okay, Steve.
Okay, I'm not sure what's been covered and what hasn't. So if I'm duplicating what you've already discussed, please give me the high sign, or feel free to interrupt me, but
If
I
you do, you'll
apologize.
just be correct. You'll be correcting me, so that's good.
Oh, well, I appreciate the invitation. I apologize for kind of the double scheduling and I couldn't join right at the start. But Antoine, you do great work and we're pleased to be able to work with you. We being in Clean Fuels Alliance America, um, working with you and your colleagues in other states and jurisdictions as well. I always say this because I think it's important to mention. We are not opposed, even though we represent a form of cleaner combustion, low carbon liquid fuels. We are not opposed to electrification, and we understand that that is really the gold standard. Electrification in all sectors, particularly the transportation sector, with a clean grid. But we also understand, as I'm sure everybody on the call knows, that we just can't get there right away. Um, and particularly in the heavy duty transportation sector, there just aren't going to be a lot of electric semis out there for the foreseeable future. And so that's where Clean Fuels Alliance and that's where low carbon liquid fuels come in, and that's where renewable diesel and biodiesel come in. And the industry has done a tremendous job in really stepping up to the plate. We hit records last year as far as production of biodiesel and renewable diesel. The crush facilities, which the largest component of biodiesel is the largest feedstock is soy, and those soybeans have to be crushed, and there's a tremendous amount of crush capacity that is not built yet, but online for seeing increasing markets in the future. So the future for the industry is good, even though there's been a couple of rumble strips thrown in our way this year. We expect that those to even out and the pathway to be good for the future. And that's helping all the entities that Burroughs, I'm sure, mentioned, and other states in making low carbon liquid fuels a reality and available for states that want it. And so the industry is stepping up to the plate, but it really takes, as Burroughs pointed out, state policy to really put the thumb on the scale. And that's happening at the national level, and it's happening among the states, as Burrow mentioned, and is happening in Maryland. Don't know how much you talked about federal policy. I won't make people's eyes glaze over and talk in great detail about federal policy, but federal and state policy is really key to the development of low carbon liquid fuels. And on the national level, things are happening. We know that this administration has not been kind to alternative fuels. And I will say that we've been the exception, that because our fuels really help domestic production and make us less reliant on foreign fuels, because the biggest benefactor, aside from the end users, is farmers who produce the feedstocks for biodiesel and renewable diesel. The administration has looked upon biomass-based diesel favorably and Congress and the big beautiful bill clarified some provisions that were still unclear with the previous administration, and the IRS, which has been charged with developing regulations for tax breaks that were actually passed a number of years ago in Congress, has clarified that even more. So, like any entity, any company, any business, certainty in federal and state policies is really key. And so that certainty on the federal level is that picture has gotten clearer on the federal level. And so I think we'll see a little less production this year because of the uncertainty of tax breaks and tax policies on the federal level. I think that's going to clear up. On the West Coast, we know that California, Oregon, and Washington, D.C., state of Washington have developed aggressive policies to spur the use of biomass-based diesel. That's happening in New Mexico even as we speak. Last year, New Mexico passed a low carbon fuel standard legislation, and agencies there are implementing that, and they're having hearings, I think, even as we speak. In the Northeast, which I know is particular concern to us here in the Northeast, there are several states. I just at a conference in upstate New York and talking with NYSERDA up here, which is the agency that is charged with coming up with a clean fuel standard and state policies that spur the use of all alternative fuels, but particularly biomass-based diesel. They are working on regulations to spur the industry up here. in New York State. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, your neighbor state, have all been working on programs either on the regulatory side or on the legislative side. We've been working with legislators to develop a low carbon fuel standard either for the thermal heat sector or the transportation sector. And Burl, did you talk much about Maryland at all, the clean heat standard and the low carbon fuel standard? I don't want to duplicate efforts if you've already talked about it.
No,
I
he
was
didn't
wait-
really,
I was
he
waiting
didn't
for
really,
you.
yeah, he didn't get into that. So you,
Okay, all right.
go ahead.
So Maryland, we think will actually, so we're familiar with, I think everyone's familiar with the low carbon fuel standard, which is, as I mentioned, has been developed in place for some time now in California, Oregon, Washington. So I call it the first cousin to a clean transportation standard, a low carbon fuel standard for transportation, is a low carbon fuel standard for the heating fuel sector. Heating oil is not big in any other section of the country except the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. And so there have been efforts to reduce the carbon content of liquid heating fuels, and particularly oil heat. And so the Clean Fuel Standard is an LCFS type of program that is just focused on the heating sector. And so Maryland is in the process of developing standards, developing a regulation, which they expect to release early next year, that will develop a clean heat standard for Maryland. And we've been working with MDE. We're actually meeting with them later this week to discuss some of the specifics of the proposal. So we're very much encouraged. I think Maryland will be the first state out of the chute with a clean heat standard for the thermal heat sector. And there were also, I'm not sure what the next slide is going to be, but we're going to talk about LCFS in Maryland.
You can go ahead and talk about that.
Sure. So LCFS, which again is a low carbon fuel standard for transportation fuels, like California, like Oregon, like Washington, like New Mexico is developing, is going to be recommended by the Maryland Climate Change Commission. They have their next meeting coming up, I think, in the next week or two. And that is the Maryland Climate Change Commission is the entity which is charged with making recommendations to the governor and the legislature. Included in those recommendations will be a low carbon fuel standard for transportation. That is the first step. The next step is for the governor to actually propose something and the legislature to adopt something, formally adopt a program. But it's a significant first step where the Climate Change Commission is going to recommend that an LCFS be adopted. So that is significant, and we'll be watching Maryland closely. And that kind of wraps it up, I think, as far as legislation and regulations that are pending in the Northeast.
No, that's amazing, Steve. I mean, thank you for being here. Really excited. Folks who don't know, the California, because of the low carbon fuel standard, has really led in terms of deployment of biodiesel and renewable diesel across the country. And so Maryland's had a lot of good legislation, but we've been slow on deployment. And that's led to, our emissions not going down as fast as they could, especially with ports, with medium and heavy duty equipment, also in terms of the capital investments that people are making. And that's the thing that we don't talk enough about, to be perfectly honest. One is the impact on public health by using a low carbon fuel standard, the immediate impact it will have in reducing asthma rates and cancer rates. And then the second thing is that companies make investments in these areas because they're outfitting buildings, they're making them a good place. I think if Maryland passes a low carbon fuel standard, that can help get more capital investments in the state. And so I'm formerly chaired the environmental committee for New York State Senate. So of course I'm concerned about the health impacts. but I'm also equally concerned about getting not just biodiesel, but other forms of these alternative fuels to make capital investments, headquarters, regional offices, creating jobs in our area, and not just their government relations teams, which typically everyone needs some presence in the DMV from a government relations perspective. But the jobs is what I want to see. I want to see this low carbon fuel standard to not only impact the health, reduce the emissions and asthma rates and cancer rates, but I also want to see people make capital investments so they can upgrade their facilities, put more supply in our area, help farmers grow, create just a economic system that makes folks raise. All right. So thank you, Steve, for being here, and we're going to turn it over to Maya, who's going to talk about this campaign that we've been planning for the last 6 months. So Maya, why don't you? The floor is yours.
Antoine, can I just chip, not to take Amaya's time, but just 2 points that I think are important to mention with regard to California, if I can be so bold to interject here for a minute. One is, and I should have mentioned this, because of the programs in California, it is harder to buy fossil diesel than it is non-fossil diesel. 80%, and that's a lot of gallons, 80% of the on-road diesel fuel market now in California, if you've got a diesel car and you want to buy fuel, if you got a diesel truck, you want to buy fuel, 80% of it is non-fossil diesel. And that's because of the program
Wow.
there. And the second point I want to make is, there's been a lot of hand-wringing in our area about the lack of EV charging infrastructure. California is light years ahead of it, and that's because of the low carbon fuel standard. The
Mm.
money that's generated through the credits, and it totals billions of dollars in California. The money that's been generated has been used primarily for EV charging infrastructure, not just for personal vehicles, but for tractor trailers, trucks, large vehicles as well. So again, I apologize to take your time, but I just thought those are 2 points important to mention.
No, we're gonna need you to come to Annapolis in January to talk about that as well. But
I love
that's not a
Annapolis.
And
yeah.
Steve, we could just mention the congressional tours real quick.
I'm sorry, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, I don't have the dates in front of me, but Clean Fuels sponsors through the Clean Fuels Foundation tours for congressional staffers and congressmen and local legislators are welcome as well. But obviously, the best way to a legislator's, Antoine, you know this, legislator's heart is through their staff. And so we offer these congressional staffing tours in different parts of the country throughout the course of the year, which are purely educational. We're not trying to sell anything in particular other than to educate folks on biomass-based diesel and its attributes. So.
Now let's learn what Maryland's going to do.
Yes, we're excited, and this is being live streamed, and we'll make sure that this goes in our newsletter that goes out, the link to this as well. Let's go over to Amaya. We got a nice campaign that we put together. One of our priority areas is getting not only states, but also the local governments, the cities, the towns, the villages, the counties in our area, both in Maryland and in Virginia, to be a part of this program. And so, Amaya, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everyone. So, oh, oh, sorry, 1 second. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you guys for joining. Today I'm pretty much presenting on the DMV Drives Clean campaign, a regional initiative to transition public and private fleets within the DMV area away from using diesel towards low carbon liquid fuels such as biodiesel blends, B20, B100, and ethanol. This effort really advances regional climate action goals as well as supports public health initiatives and supports energy reliance. So our mission is designed to decarbonize the transportation sector by accelerating the adoption of renewable biofuels. The focus is on medium to and heavy duty fleets, where barriers to electrification remain high due to cost and infrastructure gaps. By leveraging drop-in fuel solutions such as biodiesel, we can help to deliver near-term emission reductions, and improve air quality and generate economic opportunities for local producers. So why does it matter? Transportation is the largest source of gas emissions within the DMV. Diesel exhaust releases VOCs as well as nitrogen oxides, which react with sunlight and form ground level ozone and smog. These pollutants are linked to higher rates of asthma, as well as other pulmonary diseases and other respiratory issues and illnesses. Importantly, these health burdens fall disproportionately on underrepresented communities where exposure to transportation and industrial activity is at its highest. So by transitioning to biofuel, we can help mitigate both climate risk as well as public health inequities. So for our campaign structure, there's really these points that we want to target. So that's policy engagement, research and data, coalition building, and pilot programs. So by advancing resolutions by state level biofuel standards and regional clean fleet commitments, conducting city and county level analysis of fleet composition, alternative fuel readiness, as well as transit electrification, and conveying multi-sector stakeholders from fuel suppliers as well as farmers to public health organizations and advocacy groups. And last is pilot programs, which helps to deploy demonstration projects in public works, transits, and school bus fleets to prove feasibility and cost effectiveness. For our research, we really wanted to focus on our ground to advocacy in evidence. So we conducted pretty much a scan of the both cities and towns across the region. We assessed their adoption of biofuel and renewable diesels in public fleets, as well as procurement of electric buses and charging infrastructure, as well and existing sustainability or clean energy mandates. Within these findings, I was able to get informed target correspondence to mayors, council members, state legislators, as well as federal representatives. And we wrote letters to acknowledge their local progress, urging formal commitments to low carbon fuel adoption and broader fleet decarbonization. Uh-oh. Sorry, experiencing issues. All right. And where do we stand now? So currently, today, we are issuing letters to local, state, and federal officials advocating for biodiesel adoption. We have drafted model resolution language that we can send to codify clean city commitments, as well as initiated dialogue between we're starting to create a list to initiate dialogue between stakeholders within agriculture, supply chains, and environmental justice coalitions. While we're still in the early stages, these actions pretty much lay the policy and stakeholder groundwork for broader adoption and legislative traction. And what is ahead? So looking ahead, our roadmap is scheduled out for 12 to 24 months, including pilot program deployment, infrastructure development, community engagement, and legislative advocacy. And so we are looking to deployment in at least 5 fleets across the DMV region. Infrastructure development, supporting fuel station upgrades and blending facilities for B20 and B100, and for community engagement, just encouraging town hall meetings, storytelling campaigns, and really get the community involved in understanding clean air and its impacts to them. And for legislative advocacy, just continue to build towards a regional framework that is modeled after California's low carbon fuel standard and adapting it to our DMV jurisdictions. For our call to action, this campaign really requires a broad participation. We need help from policymakers, from fleet operators, from communities and supporters and advocates. Just pretty much bringing everybody together where we can champion biodiesel adoption and fund infrastructure. We can serve as early adopters through pilot program participation, elevating public health narratives, and to strengthen political will within our communities, amplify our message using hashtags such as hashtag DMV drives clean to really just spread our resources to many different avenues and position the DMV as a leader in clean fuels. Overall, clean fuels means clean air. The adoption of biodiesel is immediate and cost effective, as well as scalable as a scalable intervention that reduces emissions overall, advancing in equity as well as strengthening our regional economy. Together, we can position the DMV as a national leader in clean transportation and climate reliance.
That was amazing. I'm very inspired. Extremely, extremely inspired. Great job, Amaya. Great job. So uh we have been working on this, and hopefully you all have some feedback on this campaign. We are all in on getting this moving forward. As Amaya mentioned, we've already started sending the letters and resolutions to council members. We will be trying to get some of them to come to the conference and make a pledge. So that's one of the things that we will be doing as well, is trying to get a few of the council members and mayors and others to pledge that they will work to get the resolution passed um, in their jurisdiction between now and July 1st. So stay tuned. So that's why I tried to explain to you, October 23rd, we're going to be working really hard to get a lot of things accomplished at the conference. So I want to thank them. So let's take any quick questions that we have. I don't see any. Oh, we do have a couple of things in the chat. How can Rich Meister say, how can we emulate here in New Jersey the progress that GDRR Triple C is making in DC, Maryland, and Virginia? I would say number one, reach out to the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition as well. We can work with them. You can also reach out to Steve Dodge as well from Clean Fuels Alliance America. We have no problem. We actually did a workshop in New Jersey, in Newark, probably about a year and a half ago. And we probably need to come back. But if you're interested, just send me an email or send Steve Dodge an email, and we'll work on seeing how we can get the between our office and the New Jersey Clean Cities and Clean Fuels Alliance of America to get some more traction going there as well. Any
Antoine, can I
other?
just add, I should have mentioned New Jersey.
Oh, I didn't know you were still. I didn't
I'm
know
still
you were
on.
still
Yeah.
on.
Excuse me, there was legislation filed in New Jersey. We testified in favor of it last year. It got actually reported favorably out of a House committee, didn't go any further. I think we have to wait to see what the governor's race, how that ends up this year. But its legislation was filed in New Jersey. It was supported by the heating oil dealers. It was a clean fuel standard for both transportation and the thermal heat sector. And so we hope it'll be reintroduced next year. But yeah, please contact us, Rich, and we'll talk more.
Yeah, Steve,
Antoine.
if you can put it in the chat, your email in the chat for them, that would be great as well. And I was mentioning that we did host an event with New Jersey Clean Cities in Newark. Actually, the mayor of Newark came to the event as well. So if we can look at Rich revisiting that, we're always open to having more roundtables. I think that is a large part of it. We see that in electrification as well. If you go out to work sites, if you do lunch and learns, you bring the vehicles, you hear the testimonials, it does help move, and you got to have champions of it. That's why they have biodiesel ambassadors. So just keep pushing, Rich. We'll do everything we can to help support. I see we got a couple of things in the chat here. All right, no problem. We're definitely here to help. Um, okay, so what I'd like to do now is I want to give, I don't see any more questions in the chat. I'd like to give our speakers just last 1 minute closing comments. So we'll go to Burl, then we'll go to Steve, and then we'll go to Amaya for last minute closing comments, and then I will give you some final instructions. Thank you.
The one thing that, after studying this for many decades, is I can't come up with a reason why a state shouldn't do it. With regard to economic, energy, environment, all those things together, I can't come up with a reason as to why you wouldn't want to clean up the fuels you have as you transition to electric. I think detractors pit the alternative fuels against each other, and we're not. Clean Cities is fuel neutral. They are technology agnostic and support everything. And it's going to take everything to have an impact. So this isn't instead of EVs. This is in addition to EVs, an immediate impact on every gallon and every vehicle and every pair of lungs that's breathing it. So I think that is the message. When you look at the impact, the biofuels industry is 3 times larger than the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So the myths of it'll never work, it can't get big enough, and it can't have an impact are simply not true. And it's up to groups like the Clean Cities program and all the things that Antoine's doing is to educate people about the value of these fuels and how they can help everybody individually. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Burrow. Burrow's going to be leading the charge on biofuels and SAF at the conference on October 23rd. So if you've not registered, we have 2 Power Pack panels talking about this and at the conference. So if you've not registered, register today. It's going to be exciting. Stephen?
So I'll just piggyback on what Burl said, and that is if anyone on this call, if the legislators, regulators, residents of EJ communities, or anyone feels that global warming is a real threat, and I think we all do. We all understand it's a threat. Even though some of our leaders may not understand it's a threat, I think we all know it's a threat. Then, as Burl said, there's really no reason for any entity, when I say entity, I'm really talking about a municipality or a state, to adopt some type of incentive or mandate the use of low carbon liquid fuels. The time value of carbon we've talked about all the time, and Antoine, I know you're familiar with it. It's like the lesson we learned in junior high about investing, that a dollar earned today is worth more than the dollar invested 25 years from now. The United Nations and any other entity has said this, and many other entities have said the same thing. The most important ton of carbon reduced is the ton of carbon we reduce today and tomorrow, not 25 years from now or 20 years from now, 10 years from now. Not that programs that reduce carbon in the out years aren't important, but the most important ton we can reduce is that we can reduce right now. For every 5 years we wait, we have to make 13 times the effort to reduce the same amount of carbon. And the adoption of low carbon liquid fuel policies that can be used in existing heating equipment, in existing tractor trailer trucks and off-road equipment, any diesel application reduces carbon immediately. And that's why it's really necessary for communities, municipalities to adopt low carbon fuel policies right away. Thanks, Antoine.
You're welcome. Maya, final words.
Yes, in all, biodiesel really gives communities a chance to take immediate and practical steps towards leading cleaner air, healthier communities, as well as a strong local economy. And it really depends on focusing on the community and prioritizing the community. And so, in our next steps, it's really to talk to our government and really get everybody involved. It is a group matter, and by continuously putting the issues at the forefront and educating people on the many different outcomes that comes from having clean energy and clean diesel, and by cleaner solutions and of sustainability is very important. And yeah, and we are taking the next steps. We are preparing for this campaign and pushing forward to reaching out to so many leaders and not just making it a thought, but making it happen in real life.
Thank you. And I want to thank Amaya. She's a recent graduate of Spelman College with a major in public health and political science. So this is a dream for me to have her, someone with a public health background and a political science um, um, background working on this project is really good for us because she can speak to both the heart side and the mind side and the political side of people. So really glad of what you're doing. And you also start hearing from folks. Um, we're going to be moving these resolutions around, getting uh, city councils, town boards, county legislators to commit to passing this. So we want to see them moving with their local fleets. They don't have a lot of red tape. They can just do it. And hopefully we create that demand. So I want to thank you. Last thing I want to mention is that we register for the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition annual conference. It will take place on October 23rd in Greenbelt, Maryland. I did see Steve. I think he left from the city of Greenbelt. His mayor will be speaking. Hopefully, they can be one of the first municipalities to pass the resolution. And shout out to Kenya. I see Kenya's on, one of our bio fuels leaders as well. So let's go on, let's make it happen. And we're working hard to make a difference. So we do have an industry meeting coming up next Thursday at 10 a.m. That's our next event. And so look forward to that. You'll see email going out for that as well. And then again, save the date, October 23rd. Register, bring hundreds of your friends. We'll have a number of political people and people there from other states, but we want to make sure you all show up and we have a big crowd, a standing room only crowd. So tell all your friends, make sure they all get registered, and have a great day.